In this video, I go back to basics and look at whether it's better to use a wide angle or a telephoto lens when shooting portraits on location. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. And today I'm on location, shooting location portraits. But I brought with me a couple of lenses. I've got a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens. So how should you shoot your location portraits? Wide or up close? Well, that's what we're going to look at in this video. And to help me out, I've got the awesome Jade. Jade's going to be the model for this. So let's go take some photos using these lenses. Okay, Jade, let's go. Perhaps the best thing to do right at the beginning is to define what I would class as a wide picture and what I would class as a close-up picture. Well, there is no hard and fast rules on this, so here's my definition for the purposes of this video. A close-up or a tight picture, I'm going to say, is any portrait that is from the waist up, so head and shoulders pictures, that kind of thing. Then a wide shot, for me that's going to mean anything that is including all of Jade from the top of her head down to her feet, even when her feet are obscured by something like grass. Let's start with close-up portraits. They're probably the most logical way to go because, of course, if you're taking a picture of somebody, you want them to fill the frame. And having a close-up portrait is more about your subject than the location, because it's really going to maximize things like styling that you've applied to your subject. Maybe there's some makeup involved, or maybe your subject, your model, has some emotion that you're trying to portray as well. All of those things are going to be much clearer on a close-up portrait. If a shallow depth of field, that's that sort of blurry background effect, is your goal, then going for a close-up portrait is definitely going to help. And then there is the environment itself, so maybe it's a bit cluttered with things that don't quite fit, modern buildings or modern objects. Well, you can remove those on a close-up portrait with a bit of careful framing. And of course, if you're using lighting, or in my case an assistant, they can be removed from the scene with a bit of careful cropping too. Speaking of cropping, with a close-up portrait, one thing you can't do later is crop out. So if you've not got something in the frame when you press the shutter, you're kind of stuck with what you've got. So make sure you take plenty of photos. A wide shot sounds like it should be much easier than a close-up portrait. I mean, surely a wide shot is more about the location and less about the fine details that a close-up portrait would have. Except it's not, because you're still taking a portrait, but now you're also taking a landscape in the same picture. And those two elements need to combine together to create the perfect wide portrait. The location becomes really important with a wide portrait. Is it telling the story that your model is styled for? Is there some clutter that you want to get rid of? Are there things like light stands or assistants who have just accidentally got into the edge of the frame? All of those things need to be watched out for, as well as interacting with your model. However, what you do gain from a wide portrait is a fantastic sense of scale. You really get to tell the story of why your model is in the environment and how they're interacting with it. Now, if you're looking for a shallow depth of field portrait, a wide shot is not for you, because you're very likely to be using a wide angle lens, you're probably stepped back from your subject, and with those two things, it doesn't really matter what f-stop you use, you're always going to get more or less everything in focus. Of course, the big advantage of a wide portrait is you can always crop it later on to frame it up exactly how you want and create the perfect portrait. There's more to choosing a lens than just how it frames your picture. It's how you interact with your subject and the results. For example, if I try to take a close-up picture of Jade, but I use my wide-angle lens, I'm going to get some distortion. So Jade, I'm going to put this uncomfortably close to you. And that is not a flattering picture at all. Sorry, Jade. However, it is perfectly possible to use your telephoto lens to take a wide picture, but there is a bit of a practical problem. Let me show you. So if I take a picture of Jade with my telephoto lens, this looks great in a close-up picture, but if I go backwards and backwards and backwards, then she's going to be smaller and smaller in my frame. But to get her in my entire frame, I have to come right back over here. And now, Jade, can you still hear me? Yeah. We're so far away that we can't really communicate, but it does work. It's just not really a very good idea. And finally, your choice of a wide or telephoto lens will have some effects that maybe you didn't account for. So let's say you choose a telephoto lens, you go for a close-up portrait with a beautiful blurry background. Well, you kind of lost the environment, the location becomes irrelevant, and all of that time and effort trying to find the right location could have been totally wasted. With a wide-angle lens, if you go too wide, your subject can be completely lost inside of the background, and really what you've taken is a landscape. If you tilt that wide-angle lens up or down, you're going to end up with converging verticals, which can be fixed in post-processing, but it's something to keep an eye on. Ultimately, it all boils down to what do you want to emphasize in your pictures. If you really want to bring attention to the wide open landscape, then include it. If you need to have a slightly closer, tighter portrait, then make it closer and tighter. There's no right and there's no wrong, and ultimately, the best advice is shoot both, because you don't know which one you want until you get home. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions, leave me a comment below. Click on the bell icon for regular notifications of all the brand new videos right here on Adorama TV. And of course, click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.